Hey, you, welcome back to the Pausecast. Today I'm here for an additional episode with Dr. Bob Wright, who is one of my mentors who's helped me tremendously in my own growth and leadership, who's here to talk to us today about Golden Handcuff Syndrome. Hi, Dr. Bob. How are you?
Hi. By the way, I'm great, thank you, and I'm intrigued by the how you refer to it as a syndrome. Um, that makes it almost an illness, I think. Uh,
I think
so
that's right
so
up your alley then. So we'll have to figure that out. And I was thinking about it too in terms of how to phrase this because we've all been there, right? Golden handcuffs where you're making tons of money, you're doing pretty well. And I may not know anything about this myself, but it does ring a bell from my
well, yeah.
days
When
in
you say
corporate
we've all
world.
been there, I don't know that everybody's been there, but I know you've been there.
I've been there, and I think that that's all I can speak for today. Yeah, so I've been
No, but
there.
I think it's really important to go into how you planned,
Hmm.
how you wrote your book, how you actually took action to explore yourself. And was it 3 months?
3 month
And
unpaid break. Yeah.
Burning Man and a bunch of things you did to explore your deeper yearnings. You took courses with Wright, and
Hmm.
you learned about your yearning, and you looked at yourself, and you began going inside because the golden handcuffs stay on through fear. And they also tend to cause us to not talk enough. I would say that a significant percentage of the people I know who had golden handcuffs on and talked to me were afraid to tell the place they worked,
They were afraid to tell the place they
where
worked
they
that
worked, where
where they weren't.
they were getting paid. They were
Yeah.
afraid to talk about their discontent. And oftentimes they waited way too long. They got themselves into a job. They got really good at the job. They're making tons of money. And now they're afraid to let go of the money. When they could have said something earlier, they could have said, this job doesn't feel like the right one for me. What else can I do here? I went to
Hmm.
the owner of the psychiatric hospital I worked at. Um, and I had been kind of his troubleshooter on a number of different things. And I asked him, what he was thinking about my future. And he said, well, you got to get an MD or PhD if you want to have a future here. But I really like what you've been doing for me. And I'd be glad to pay for you to do an MBA at the University of Chicago. I said, well, thank you very much, Mr. Squire, but I really don't want an MBA. I like the work I'm doing. And so you're telling me there's nothing else for me here unless I get an advanced degree. He said, yeah. And so I began interviewing people. And that's another thing you can do is talk to people. Now, not everybody's in the same position I was. I didn't make much money. It was my first real job out of school. And but that was really a good opportunity for me. People wait too long to talk about what they like and what they don't like, what works for them, what doesn't work for them. So one of the things we can say is don't wait so long.
Yeah.
And it may be, is it a boss that you're working under where you're not happy? Well, that's a challenge because managers are the main reason people leave companies. And are you suffering under a manager? Well, what's going on? Have you really looked at the company? The
Mhm.
number of people I have talked to who have golden handcuffs on, who have not really looked at the hierarchy of their company, not looked at all the divisions in their company, not looked for all the opportunities they could in the company. I had a guy who was he was the interim president at Bell and Howell. He'd worked for which is a company. It used to be a very famous company. It doesn't exist anymore. And he was willing to step back and make way less money selling some of the earliest voice messaging programs in the early 80s when we all thought you have to have somebody voice to voice. It
Mhm.
was totally foreign to us to leave a message on an answering machine, but he stepped away. He stepped away and he learned to sell, and he took actually a downward move to get a better job. So that's one way that you can do it. But I don't think you always need to. I've had a number of people who were good in companies who went into sales for the company, and it was a lateral move because the company wanted them and their experience was valuable. What is there in your company? Who have you not talked to in your company?
That's a great
And yeah, do you have mentors in the company? Are you probably need to be a more relational person. Now, are there golden handcuffs where you get to be the head of marketing for a major company or something, and they have huge bonus plan and you make a ton of money? And you've got 3 kids who are ready to go to college. And you can't imagine what you could do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bind. It makes the handcuffs understandable, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah,
think
I loved the job until I got this new boss. And then they sold the company. And they need me. And so they pay me an obscene amount of money, but it's not obscene enough to quit and put my kids through school and have my retirement where I want it.
mm-hmm. And that is a bind, because I know I was just talking to a friend the other day who's the breadwinner. So he's got 3 kids. He's the primary breadwinner for his family, and he knows he's ready to jump ship and do something different. But at the same time, he feels that fear of having to go out. He's been in his company for a while, so he's afraid that he won't get the same salary, all of that. And then you've also got the comfort of not having to interview. If I've been at my company for a decade, for me, I was at Google 13 years, and I hadn't interviewed outside the company. I'd been doing a lot of internal interviewing, but not outside. I think there's a confidence issue that goes on too sometimes, where you think like you don't know if you've got what it takes after being at a post for so long to do something different. So how do we kind of counter that?
Well, first of all, we've got to acknowledge how tough the situation is. When you have responsibilities, when you have people depending on you, it's easy to forget about yourself. It's easy to forget about what you like. And it takes work to find yourself. And this is where you might need to have a coach to help you sort it out. But the coach needs to not buy what we call your scarcity. The coach needs to actually challenge you to what limiting beliefs are causing you to sit there. Mm-hmm. I got higher in this company than I ever thought I would get in my whole life. I am so far beyond anything my family ever did that I just think I should be more grateful and suck it up.
Well, that's the syndrome part, Dr. Bob, I think too, because we get in that mindset and it's like, oh, this is just normal. This is how it is. And that's like us having to put up with ourselves, basically.
Especially when our parents were unhappy in their work.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't understand what it is to find nourishment at work. And we start looking outside and different things happen. And that's where I don't have easy, glib answers to this. If we pretend that this is an easy question, I don't have an easy answer, but I do know it has to do with talking. I do know it has to do with exploring. I do know that it has to do with some of the work you did to dig into the quality of your life. I do know that it has to do with staying with the question and not lying to yourself and not lying to others, but at the same time recognizing that you're alive. Do we know how to enjoy our here and now? Oftentimes when we get stuck with golden handcuffs, we lost the capacity to be fully present in the here and now, which is where nourishment happens. Mm-hmm. We lost the capacity to really be alive and be our most essential self. Maybe we built up too much anger and piss off. Maybe we just built up too much fear.
Yeah.
There's no easy answer. There's no easy, glib answer. But what I do know is if you don't believe there's an answer, there won't be an answer. And if you're not even willing to explore and find answers, you won't find the answers. But I do know it has to do with talking. I do know it has to do with exploring our fear. I do know it has to do with identifying, it helps to identify limiting beliefs, because oftentimes we're afraid of something and we have no clue what other opportunities are there and who out there might be willing and really looking for us that we will never find because we are not networking out into the world, getting to know people, serve people. So this wonders of intentional, influential networking that you and I discuss sometimes is really critical. Just because you have the golden handcuffs on doesn't mean that you can't talk to people, can't meet with people, can't learn about them, can't serve them, can't find out what they're thinking and share with them what your challenge is and see what they think.
That's such a good idea, because I think we feel so locked in sometimes, like those handcuffs are on so tight that I'm restricted from, why bother? Why do those? And those are what you're saying are like those limiting beliefs. But hey, I can get out there, I can make a call, I can touch base with someone that might just shift my perspective in the slightest bit. And
First thing I
yeah.
do when somebody's got the golden handcuffs on and I've gotten to know them and we've explored what's so for them, what their situation is have them start networking seriously. And don't ever stop networking again. Continue networking the rest of your life. But right now, you're going to network like a maniac. The more urgent it is, the more you get out there and network, because you have no clue what the universe is out there waiting for you to come and radiate who you are and say, oh my God, you're exactly what we've been looking for.
Yeah.
We don't know. If we don't step out in the world and step into our unknowns, we'll never see those unknown gifts that are out there waiting for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And thinking about success stories, you've coached hundreds of corporate leaders, I'm sure in your past. And do people in general, do they find the answers and get out of their handcuffs if they are looking and willing in those ways that you're talking about? What kind of successes happen?
Well, so for starters, it depends on the level the executive's at, because there's a certain point where it's really useful to be networking and getting into boards.
Yeah.
If you're a very senior executive and you have a very, fine skill set. So that's one of the things that we talk about. But the other thing is to really be out in the world, talking to other people in tangential fields, not just your field, because you never know where your skill set is going to translate into something else. And so there are a lot of different variables, but they all have to do with being in the world and creating value for other people and seeing what you can do to help people. We never know what helping other people is going to uncover for us. And so we may have the golden handcuffs on, but our tongue still works. We can talk to people, we can share. We used to call it a Rolodex. Now it's our contacts. But who do we have in our Rolodex that would be just the right person for this one to meet? And if we don't meet people and talk to people, we're never going to find them. I was just out in San Francisco, and I was getting up at about 4:00 in the morning and working, and there was a young man there, and I started talking to him. I found out what he was doing there, and he was out there to present to the tech stars. He had developed, by the way, 50% of the people that live in the continent of Africa have been subject to financial fraud.
Mm.
And he and his buddy had been putting together an app where they were able to bring about greater compliance in financial institutions that will truly serve the people in the institution and compliance. Well, I have a friend who gave Judith his socks when the Mumbai attacks happened. And Judith, we had to go through, security with our shoes off, and Judith's socks were wet. He reaches into his carry-on, gives Judith a pair of socks. We start talking. Turns out he's interested in us. I give him one of our books. We start following with him. He comes and participates in one of our weekend seminars. We stay in contact with him. His company was a compliance company that started out doing compliance for Google and Yahoo and all the big companies. And compliance was exactly what this guy was doing. And this man understood compliance like nobody's business. So I was able to introduce him to that man, who, by the
Nice.
way, got out of his never had golden handcuffs, sold his company for a boatload of money as an investor, and someone who understands this person. We never know who's going to meet whom that knows what if we don't get to know other people and really find out the gift they are to our world and what motivates them. Where are they going? It may be their family. Does their family need to get into better schools? What's going on?
Yeah, they're all different. And I'm hearing this theme of value, providing value, knowing I have value to offer. And then what does that do? And where does that take me? And that might be different for each of us. But I think the biggest message I'm also hearing is with my handcuffs, my golden handcuffs that are on, I still have my mouth. I can still be curious and start to think about things in a little bit of a different way and get support on it, right? Like you were saying, that's so important because we're all just, in our own heads a lot, and it's difficult to change anything that we've been used to for so long.
And get a great coach. There are coaches that know a lot of different industries. There are coaches that are going to be very good at supporting you, but make sure that that coach is really helping you look beyond your limiting beliefs, that they really get how you managed to get in these golden handcuffs in the first place, because it does not happen by mistake
No.
in most cases.
Yeah. Yeah, no, super, super important. And I think this is a great summary of just how to think about things in a different light. So if this applies to you, if you are listening to this, wondering, that's me, I've got some handcuffs like that I'm familiar with, what would be your next move? What would be interested for you? And I hope this conversation has helped you think about some things that might be new for you. And yes, get support. If you're interested, I'm happy to lend a hand. This is what I do. I help my successful business leaders rise to their next level of leadership, which might mean busting out of those handcuffs just so that you feel more satisfied and have something different, and know that it's okay. And the scarcity doesn't need to be there forever. You can move into something different. Anything else, Dr. Bob, you'd want to add in terms of
Just understand that Rachael knows that because she's done it. And she put together her own strategy. So reach out to Rachael and she will help you.
Thank you. Yes, powerful reminder. I've been there, done that, and came out the other side. And I'm able to now help other people do that too, which is what I really, truly love. So, Dr. Bob, thank you for joining us today. It's been a total pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.